Hi everyone, I am Shifa. Here I am going to discuss the topic virus and their related threats. A computer virus is a piece of software that can infect other programs by modifying them. The modification includes injecting the original program with a routine to make copies of the virus program, which can then go on to infect other programs. Computer viruses first appeared in the early 1980s and the term itself is attributed to Fred Cohen in 1983. A computer virus carries in its instructional code the recipe for making perfect copies of itself. The typical virus becomes embedded in a program on a computer. Then, whenever the infected computer comes into contact with an uninfected piece of software, a fresh copy of the virus passes into the new program. Thus, the infection can be spread from computer to computer by unsuspecting users who either swap disk or send programs to one another over a network. In a network environment, the ability to access applications and system services on other computers provides a perfect culture for the spread of a virus. A virus can do anything that other programs do. The only difference is that a virus attaches itself to another program and executes secretly when the host program is run. Once a virus is executing, it can perform any function such as erasing files and programs that is allowed by the privileges of the current user. This flowchart represents the taxonomy of malicious program. Malicious programs can be categorized into dependent programs or need host programs and the independent programs. Dependent programs cannot exist independent of some actual applications. The examples of dependent programs are trapdoors, logic bombs, Trojan horses, and virus. And the independent programs can be scheduled and run by the operating system. The examples of independent programs are worm and zombie. Computer virus. A computer virus is a program code that can copy itself and infect a computer without the permission of the user. In order to replicate itself, a virus must be permitted to execute and write to memory. For this reason, many viruses attach themselves to an executable files that may be part of legitimate programs. Some viruses change its own code by itself. Viruses spread via network, floppy disks, CDs, USB drive, etc. A computer virus has mainly three parts. These are infection mechanism, trigger, and payload. Infection mechanism, the means by which a virus spreads, enabling it to replicate. The mechanism is also referred to as the infection vector. Second one, trigger, the event or condition that determines when the payload is activated or delivered. And the last one is payload. What the virus does besides spreading, the payload may involve damage or may involve benign but noticeable activity. During its lifetime, a typical virus goes through the following four phases. These are dormant phase, propagation phase, triggering phase, and execution phase. In dormant phase, the virus is ideal. The virus will eventually be activated by some event such as a date, the presence of another program or file, or the capacity of the disk exceeding some limit. Not all viruses have this stage. And second one is propagation phase. In this phase, the virus places a copy of itself into other programs or into certain system areas on the disk. The copy may not be identical to the propagating version. Viruses often move to evade detection. Each infected program will now contain a clone of the virus, which will itself enter a propagation phase. Third phase is triggering phase, and in this phase, the virus is activated to perform the function for which it was intended. As with the dormant phase, the triggering phase can be caused by a variety of system events, including a count of the number of times that this copy of the virus has made copies of itself. And the last phase is execution phase. In this phase, the function is performed. The function may be harmless such as message on the screen or damaging such as the destruction of programs and data files. Most viruses carry out their work in a manner that is specific to a particular operating system and in some cases specific to a particular hardware platform. Thus, they are designed to take advantages of the details and weaknesses of particular systems. Next, virus structure. A virus can be prepended or postpended to an executable program, or it can be embedded in some other fashion. The key to its operation is that the infected program, when invoked, will first execute the virus code and then execute the original code of the program. A very general depiction of virus structure is shown in below. In this case, the virus code V is prepended to infected programs, and it is assumed that the entry point to the program when invoked is the first line of the program. The infected program begins with the virus code and works as follows. The first line of the code is jumped to the main virus program. The second line is a special marker that is used by the virus to determine whether or not a potential victim program has already been infected with this virus. When the program is invoked, a control is immediately transferred to the main virus program. The virus program may first seek out uninfected executable files and infect them. Next, the virus may perform some action, usually detrimental to the system. This action could be performed every time the program is invoked, or it could be a logic bomb that triggers only under certain conditions. Finally, the virus transfers control to the original program. If the infection phase of the program is reasonably rapid, a user is unlikely to notice any difference between the execution of an infected and an uninfected program. A virus such as the one just described is easily detected because an infected version of a program is longer than the corresponding uninfected one. A way to that such a simple means of detecting a virus is to compress the executable file, so that both the infected and uninfected versions are of identical length. The above portion shows in general terms the logic required. The key lines in this virus are numbered. The figure illustrates the operation. We assume that program P1 is infected with the virus CV. When this program is invoked, control passes to its virus, which performs the following steps. 1. For each uninfected file P2 that is found, the virus first compresses that file to produce, which is shorter than the original program by the size of the virus. Second, a copy of the virus is prepended to the compressed program. Third, the compressed version of the original infected program is uncompressed. And the fourth step is the uncompressed original program is executed. Next, initial infection. Once a virus has gained entry to a system by infecting a single program, it is in a position to potentially infect some or all other executable files on that system when the infected program executes. Thus, viral infection can be completely prevented by preventing the virus from gaining entry in the first place. A virus can be part of any program outside a system. Thus, unless one is content to take an absolutely bare piece of iron and write all one's own system and application program, one is vulnerable. Many forms of infection can also be blocked by denying normal users the right to modify programs on the system. The lack of access controls on early PCs is a key reason why traditional machine code based viruses spread rapidly on these systems. In contrast, while it is easy enough to write a machine code virus for Unix system, they were almost never seen in practice because the existence of access controls on these systems prevented effective propagation of the virus. Traditional machine code based viruses are now less prevalent because modern PC OSs do have more effective access controls. However, virus creators have found other avenues such as macro and email viruses. Next, some symptoms of a virus attack. These are changes file size, change system date and time, slow down the computer, shut down computer unexpectedly, take more time to boot computer. Next, viruses classification. There has been a continuous arms race between virus writers and writers of antivirus software since viruses first appeared. As effective countermeasures are developed for existing type of viruses, newer types are developed. There is no simple or universally agreed upon classification schemes for viruses. In this session, we follow and classify viruses along two orthogonal axes. The type of target the virus tries to infect and the method the virus uses to conceal itself from detection by users and antivirus software. A virus classification by target includes the following categories. Boot sector infector. It infects a master boot record or boot record and spread when a system is booted from the disk containing the virus. Examples are Monkey, NYB, also known as B1, Stoned and Form. And second one is file infector. It infects files that the operating system or shell considered to be executable. Examples are Jerusalem and Cascade. And macrovirus. It infects files with macro code that is interpreted by an application. Examples Melissa virus. Next, classification by concealment strategies. These are encrypted virus, stealth virus, polymorphic virus and metamorphic virus. Encrypted virus. A portion of the virus creates a random encryption key and encrypts the remainder of the virus. The key is stored with the virus. When an infected program is invoked, the virus uses the storm random key to decrypt the virus. When the virus replicates, a different random key is selected. Because the bulk of the virus is encrypted with a different key for each instance, there is no constant bit pattern to observe. Examples are ransomware and cryptid. Next, stealth virus. Explicitly designed to hide itself from detection by antivirus software. Thus, the entire virus, not just a payload, is hidden. Example, brain. Next, polymorphic virus. It mutates with every infection, making detection by the signature of the virus impossible. Examples are Verloc, Warpfuzz, Bangle, URSNIF, and Upolix. Next, metamorphic virus. It mutates with every infection. The difference is that a metamorphic virus rewrites itself completely at each iteration, increasing the difficulty of detection. Metamorphic viruses may change their behavior as well as their appearance. Example, ZMist. Next, virus kit. Another weapon in the virus writer's armory is the virus creation toolkit. Such a toolkit enables a relative novice to quickly create a number of different viruses. Although viruses created with toolkits tend to be less sophisticated than viruses designed from scratch, the sheer number of new viruses that can be generated using a toolkit creates a problem for antivirus schemes. Next, macroviruses. In the mid-1990s, macroviruses became by far the most prevalent type of virus. Macroviruses are particularly threatening for a number of reasons. First one, a macrovirus is platform independent. Many macroviruses infect Microsoft Word documents or other Microsoft Office documents. Any hardware, platform and operating system that support these applications can be infected. Second one, macroviruses infect documents, not executable portions of code. Most of the information introduced onto a computer system is in the form of a document rather than a program. And third one, macroviruses are easily spread. A very common method is by electronic mail. Fourth one, because macroviruses infect user documents rather than system programs, traditional file system access controls are of limited use in preventing their spread. Macroviruses take advantages of a feature found in Word and other Office applications such as Microsoft Excel, namely the macro. In essence, a macro is an executable program embedded in a word processing document or other type of file. Typically, users employ macros to automate repetitive tasks and thereby save keystrokes. The macro language is usually some form of the basic programming language. A user might define a sequence of keystroke in a macro and set it up so that the macro is invoked when a function key or special short combination of keys is input. Successive release of MS Office products provide increased protection against macroviruses. For example, Microsoft offers an optional macrovirus protection tool that detects suspicious Word files and alerts the customers to the potential risk of opening a file with macros. Various antivirus product vendors have also developed tools to detect and correct macroviruses. As in the other types of viruses, the arms race continues in the field of macroviruses, but they are no longer than the predominant virus threat. Next one is email viruses. A more recent development in malicious software is the email virus. The first rapidly spreading email viruses such as Melissa made use of a Microsoft Word macro embedded in an attachment. If the recipient opens the email attachment, the word macro is activated. Then, the email virus sends itself to everyone on the mailing list in the user's email package. The virus does local damage on the user's system. In 1999, a more powerful version of the email virus appeared. This newer version can be activated merely by reopening an email that contains the virus rather than opening an attachment. The virus uses the Visual Basic scripting language supported by the email package. These are all about virus and related threats. Thank you.